Hey-ho.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main event. You here with me, Daniel?
And Aaron.
Aaron, nice to see you representing after your team have won tonight. Would you be wearing it if they hadn't?
I was wearing it all day, to be fair.
Fair enough. How you doing? How's your night been so far? Obviously good.
Yeah, it was good. It was a late one at work today, but overall was pretty good. And then got to watch AC Milan tonight, so a good all-round day. What about yourself?
All right. I was trying to represent by having Di Lorenzo's hairstyle, and didn't work. Didn't work. Yeah, my day's been all right. I was looking forward to the football. Wasn't the most exciting night in the world. It was like, yeah, it's fine, nothing crazy going on. So yeah, it's been good. Can't complain. Nothing bad's happened. That's what life's like as a 33-year-old. Did anything bad happen? No, it's been a good day.
I think my biggest shock from this game, like this round of fixtures, is the amount of clean sheets.
Yes.
Like we were expecting one or two at most. Literally every single home side kept a clean sheet. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's what they intended when they took away the away goals rule.
Yeah, and especially when I think I only had like one team's worth of clean sheets. There was some news as well, obviously, when we saw the Mahrez benching, that stopped me from getting more players that could potentially get clean sheets. I also have to kick myself. So I send my team into Lewis FPL Reaction so that he can send a scout in every match day, basically. Myself and a few others, we reveal our teams. And my last position was to take out Guerrero, and it was a toss-up between Gosens, a Real Madrid defender, and John Stones. Now, obviously, I wouldn't have put Gosens in because he didn't start. We saw that, so I wouldn't have put him in. So yeah, wasn't able to make the change because I decided to change Mahrez. I didn't want to take the hit, and John Stones ends up getting a clean sheet assistant player of the match. That's a tough one. It's Haaland all over again.
Yeah.
60% of the game don't own him, so it's not as bad.
Yeah. Yeah, so I didn't have John Stones, but I guess we'll go game by game. And
yeah.
So should we start with the one that we did watch or the one that we didn't?
Let's start with the one that we did watch. We both watched Man City versus Bayern Munich. I thought you might have watched the Inter Milan game, but no, neither of us have watched that game. So just as a heads up, because obviously neither Aaron nor I get paid for this. If anything, it costs us money. we run our own league, and we pay for our own prizes. The benefactor of the previous prize, FPL Rossoneri, hello. I hope you're enjoying FIFA 23. Yeah, so because of that, like we don't go back and watch games. We have our lives. Aaron has 2 children. One of them's in hospital. She's still in hospital.
No, she's back home, thankfully. Doesn't have a feeding tube anymore, so all
That's
good.
So yeah, like we're not one of those that's going to go back and watch 90 minutes of another game. So we don't have too much to say on that. We'll try and comment on obviously point scorers and our feelings on the result. But we'll talk about the game that we did watch: Man City versus Bayern. What did you make of it?
Kind of. It reminded me of a movie where everyone else is talking about how good the movie's going to be. You watch it and it's a bit of a disappointment in the end because it was kind of as expected, like no twists, no turns. Literally, like you saw the ending happen and you're like, oh, like a bit flat. That's how I felt watching this match. I was like, oh, it's so excited, it has so much potential, and then
one team doesn't turn up.
Yeah, like yeah.
Yeah, I felt like I was disappointed as well. I, Bayern like played football for about 20 minutes of the total game. They played for the first 10 minutes of the second half, and they had like a little spell in the first. But beyond that, they just didn't
It was
really turn up.
Rodri's goal. Just Bayern were like, ugh.
Yeah, you could see they're just deflated, and they didn't look like they had a plan. Like when the ball was in the wide areas, Kingsley Coman didn't look like he had a plan. Sané was the only one that was really trying out of that front. I forgot Gnabry was playing at times. I thought Musiala had another okay game without being too effective. But
As soon as they took him off, the Bayern's game went flat, didn't it? It was kind of,
yeah,
you didn't realize how critical he was to them actually just playing and getting moves together. Like
yeah.
as soon as they took him off, it was all Man City at that point.
I feel like Muller needs to be playing because he's such a clever player. Like Gnabry's a really good right winger, but he's not a striker. He's not a centre forward. And I think Thomas Muller could cause some havoc because he's really intelligent. And physically, I thought players like Ake were
Unbelievable.
surprised me, was outstanding in that game. Akanji was really good. Obviously, I thought all three of the defenders were brilliant. I've been very critical of Rodri because he hasn't really turned up against big teams before. And yeah, he didn't put a foot wrong last night. I thought he was absolutely unbelievable. Not outside of his goal, like obviously he scored his goal, but prior to that, he was just frighteningly good. So I may have turned a corner on my opinion of Rodri, not because he's ever been a bad player either. It's just in big games against big players, he's a bit of a liability at times. And last night he wasn't.
Yeah.
He was one of Man City's absolute strengths. So
Like I feel like, and I don't want to bring them up too much, but like Bruno Fernandes, I think is the biggest kind of culprit with that kind of stuff. Where like there's a lot of players like that where they play against weaker opposition and they look unbelievable. When it comes to big games, it's almost like they psych themselves out. I think Rodri, the way that Rodri's been playing this season, actually, I think just since the World Cup, Man City just look a completely different team, just look a lot more solid. Because you never really associated Man City with strong defensive performances, but like last night, they absolutely just the defenders were unbelievable. Like
yeah,
I think any one of them could have got player of the match. I probably would have gave it to Ake to be honest, but I think the
I
assist from John Stones probably swayed it towards him. But I thought Ake was unbelievable. I mean, he stopped a potential goal.
that
Like,
Musiala block. I didn't realize how good it was until I saw the replay, and I thought, oof,
yeah.
that's some
So
block.
I think I heard it on your space actually when you were talking about Laporte, how he doesn't make it into the defense anymore, and even though he's a really good player, you can see why. How
Yeah,
he's why break that like back three up? So loads of
yeah,
ball recoveries and. I think the tie is over. Like I said, I said that in the preview that the first leg would be all to play for. Man City, notoriously this season and last season, when they're away from home, don't go and attack the match. They just look to control possession. It's all the onus is on Bayern Munich. So I think the defense, I think they're going to go through. Potentially, there's a lot of ball recoveries there. I think they're potentially targets if you need to get rid of, say, Benfica players.
yes, which we do. I also thought Bernardo Silva was just an absolute magician at times in the right, both in possession and out of possession. Deserved his goal in the end. Haaland was
It made sense to play him against Alfonso Davies over Mahrez.
yeah,
Like it
because
made total sense. I was
yeah,
thinking about it actually at work during the day. Um, love this comment.
more fight off the yeah. Oh, but it was the fact that it was Sadio Mane as well, puncher. I thought Leroy Sané was their best player on the night,
Mm.
quite comfortably. Sadio Mane came on and he was shit. He was proper shit. So the audacity of him to punch him. But I suppose Sané was obviously getting in people's faces. But rightly so, you're just being beaten 3-0 and you were played off the pitch at times. Didn't
He was
really
the only
offer
one that
much.
seemed like he was trying, really.
Yes, he was the only one. The only. Well, I think that's a bit harsh at times on Joshua Kimmich, although turning his back on Rodri's goal is a bit unforgivable, especially when it's a curler. But I thought Kimmich tried his best in there. But yeah, Sané was the one forward that was really, really actually trying to get a goal. So yeah, I think sometimes you have to have it out with players when you come off after that. Upamecano, we've talked about him at Leipzig, about all the talent,
Shocking.
but he's always capable of a mistake. He was at Leipzig. We've said, must be the dozenth time we've said it in total on these podcasts. And it was just peak Upamecano. Half decent in the league for a couple of games, and then he just comes in and does this. And he's very young, has all the physical attributes, but just composure and decision making and all these sorts of things. He's got to work on, because he just give them a goal basically. I think did Tuchel say it was half an own goal or something like that?
Yeah. I think the interesting thing was like, so I put it on Twitter and it was like, where do you think Bayern Munich would finish in the in the Premier League if they played in the Premier League?
Yeah.
I originally tweeted out when Bayern Munich were having that spell on top, and I was like, maybe they could challenge top two. Like, they've got the squad for it, but I think as the match went on, they would definitely be top four race, like comfortably. I think they'd probably be ahead of Man U just with how inconsistent. Probably not ahead of Newcastle, no. But they would beat majority of teams. I just thought that was really interesting. But I think the biggest thing, which I heard from the analysis, was they sacked Nagelsmann because the treble didn't look likely. And within a week of 2 weeks of Tuchel being in charge, they are now out of 2 competitions.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
just bad moves.
It's a silly time to do it, really. At least when Tuchel came in for Lampard at Chelsea, when he ended up winning the Champions League, he had that little bit of a breather. Like, it was in between the group stages and the knockouts. So he had a bit of time with them, at least, to implement some changes. Also, Chelsea were actually, under Lampard, really good at attacking. It was just defensively they were a bit crap. So it was just a case of, oh, well, if we tweak these things. Whereas it's like a totally different thing with Nagelsmann to Tuchel. Like, the way that they play, like the difference in intensity is massively different. Tuchel likes a lot more width than Nagelsmann, which probably suits the Bayern players more. But that formation that he started with, that sort of 4-1-4-1 bit, that just, you can't play that against Man City. You just can't do it. So Goretzka was getting pulled around everywhere. Then that left Musiala in Gnabry just totally exposed, miles away from each other as well, because they had to come back and defend. He should have just set up with a really defensive formation, and then had a plan on how to counter, perhaps with a little bit more narrow, so that you had 3 players together to exploit Man City. But is what it is. 3-0. We've seen bigger leads get overturned, but I don't think this Bayern Munich team's got it in them. It's all down to Pep, whether he bottles it or not.
Yeah.
What players did you have from this game?
So I only had 3 Man City players, no Bayern Munich. I had Haaland captain, De Bruyne, Grealish. So total of 25 points.
I had Kingsley Coman for 2. I brought in Kevin De Bruyne to replace Mahrez. We were 3. And then I captained Haaland. I think that was all the players. Yeah. So captain Haaland like everyone else did. So yeah, 20 odd points myself. Off those, and I think they all ended up staying in my team as well, because I had a lot of blankers. last night. So on to the other game. Inter Milan.
Shock. I was shocked.
Yeah, cruising. When you looked at the starting lineups, I just thought, shit. Inter looks actually quite strong. But I still expected Benfica to score past them. But fair play, like I think lesson learned with Inter. Milan derby at the San Siro. You reckon?
Yeah, it looks strong, especially with the suspensions, the yellow cards, and still injuries that they've got. 1-0 is a close game. I think out of all of the ties, that one has still got the most to play for and could go to either team. I think the rest are kind of done.
Was this one not 2-0? Oh, you mean the AC Milan game one?
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think out of all the others, I think they're kind of done and dusted, and we know our semi-finalists.
Yeah, I think it's Real Madrid, Man City, and
Inter versus.
I think it's going to be Inter versus AC personally, because, like you say, the Kim and Gisa both suspended. That's massive. That's absolutely massive. Wait. What am I saying? Napoli was supposed to thrash us 5-0. Did anyone actually say that? I don't know who.
You said Real Madrid would beat the Chelsea.
I said Real Madrid would beat Chelsea 5-0.
And it should have been.
If anything, all we talked about on our previous pod was that Milan beat Napoli 4-0, and that was like a real spanner in the works, and it was a bit worrying, and we're a lot less sure. If anything, like I say, I took Osimhen out. I know that he was injured.
He's not going to come back in, is he? Are we going to bring in Osimhen now? Knowing that Kim isn't going to play, is Leao not a better shout?
Maybe, but I think Osimhen could be a massive differential now.
Yeah, I also potentially Alvarez from Man City could be a shout depending on De Bruyne's injury, but we digress. Yeah, so from what, obviously I didn't watch the match. I didn't make a goalkeeper transfer. I was close to doing it. I'm thankful that I didn't. It would have been a hit. And I was like, a goalkeeper is not worth a hit. So, and it's a good thing I didn't as well. But I mean, I wouldn't have been able to afford Courtois, but it was going to end up being Merit from Napoli, and I was like, nope, no, thank you.
So who was your goalkeeper? Was it Vlachodimos or Onana?
Vlachodimos.
Yeah, same. I had both, and I sold Vlachodimos, but I sold him for Courtois. So I think Courtois maybe got more points anyway. So many on Twitter didn't give us a chance. I think being underdogs in a game suits us. Yeah, I mean, again, madness. You beat them 4-0 2 weeks ago.
That's 2 games now in a matter of weeks where Napoli have not scored at all. Obviously, not having Osimhen in either game helps out a lot, but we'll talk about them later. We're jumping ahead. But from what I read, Inter should have scored a lot more than what they did. Yeah. Benfica were on the ropes, and Ramos missed a chance at the end. João Mario gave away the penalty, which isn't great at all. But Inter look very strong again, and they did the exact same thing in the last round where they had to take a lead back to the San Siro and just defend it for their lives. And I think, which is really annoying, before the Player of the Match award, I was halfway through that match going, right, I can do this transfer. So I was like, Grimaldo to Bastoni, class. That's my transfer. Then Bastoni won Player of the Match, and I'm like, great, now everybody else is going to do that transfer.
Yeah.
But I think that is a shout, knowing how many ball recoveries are potentially up for grabs for Bastoni. Depends if you want one of the wing backs. If I was to try and get Courtois, I was close, very close to taking a -8, and I was like, no, thank you, in the end. But I would have been able to afford Courtois, but I would have also got Darmian for 4.2 instead of Bar. And I was like,
oh, that would have been a great -8.
it would have in hindsight. I just know that if I had have done it, that game would have went totally different.
Yes. The thing is, I think I might bring in Bastoni for Kim anyway.
Yeah, at least I know Onana is my goalkeeper moving forward.
Yeah.
So I can get rid of Lacademous instead of him.
The thing is, Benfica play better away from home, and
they do defensively. Yeah,
I think they've got nothing to lose, and Inter will just sit deep.
Since January, from the stats that I wrote down, they've not conceded a goal away from home since January 21st or something.
Come back on. I'm very apprehensive to get rid of my Benfica players. Ultimately, I've got Kim, who's suspended now. I've still got Guerrero. They're my two major I need to get rid of you players. Then I've got one more sort of luxury.
It depends on De Bruyne's injury, doesn't it?
It depends on De Bruyne's injury. If he's fine, Kingsley Coleman, probably. I don't have any Chelsea players. The two from that side, just given the nature of the teams, I just don't think it's all over just yet. It's obviously Inter have to be favourites and Milan have to be favourites. So did you have any players from this game other than Lacademous?
Yes, I had Grimaldo, Mario, and Ramos. Grimaldo and Mario went to the bench. Lacademous had to stay on because Onana was my other goalkeeper. So overall, I got 3 points from that match.
I had exactly the same players, subbed off João Mario, Grimaldo, and Lacademous. So I got 2 points from Ramos. That was the damage, all the damage done. Would you start moving Benfica players out now? If you've got no
with
other
how many that we have, I would definitely start, because one, they play on the second day, so you want to get some players who play on the first day. So you'll want to be getting a few more AC Milan, Napoli, or Real Madrid players. Definitely not Chelsea. And then with how many Benfica players a lot of us have, I think you'll want to be getting a few of the cheaper players that are still going to be advancing in the tournament. Yeah, if there are any.
I'd be looking to again. It's tough because for me, I've got one in each position. I'm not going to move Lacademous. What's the point? But then I've only got Grimaldo in defence. Then, do you want to get rid of Grimaldo? When he's such an attacking threat, but. Then you've got João Mario who's on pens, so then that leaves you getting rid of Ramos. So maybe if you've got anyone other than those, then you definitely want to get rid of them. I think for me, needing to get rid of Kim and Guerrero, they're my two defensive changes. So I won't be personally getting rid of certainly Grimaldo or Lacademous. But again, it's sort of up to your team. If you've got double Benfica defense, yeah, I'd probably get rid of one of them. You can maybe get rid of Gonçalo Ramos. I wouldn't get rid of João Mario. He's on pens. Anything can happen.
Yeah. I think that's it for that match, though.
Yep.
Other than Lukaku comes off the bench and scores. So.
Barella got the first goal. A bit annoying because when I said, I wouldn't be looking at anyone other than these three, afterwards I was like, I feel a bit disrespectful towards Nicola Barella. But he's one of those players that he's really good on the pitch. He hasn't done anything for a while, in terms of getting points. and then obviously trolls us all. But yeah, go on. I'm just trying to have a look. See.
My asthma.
Oh, is your asthma?
My asthma's playing up, so apologies for coughing.
You scum, Aaron. You are disgusting.
I know.
Just don't breathe. That'll cure your asthma. Just hold your breath.
That's what it feels like most of the time. A lot of Inter's players, for example, Darmian and stuff like that, good cheap options if you need to get rid of like a cheaper player. Obviously, Otamendi's back, but I don't know if you'd want to do that. But you've got a Cherby 4.4. You've got Nathan Ake 4.4, so he probably seems like the best bet, especially as a Kim replacement. But Darmian's 4.3. Juan Jesus, he's going to be playing instead of Kim. It's 4.2. So yeah, I think there's still options available for very, very cheap defenders. And I think they're going to be cheap enough to where even if their team gets eliminated, you probably still want them on your bench moving forward because less games. So you won't need as many players. You don't need the full 15, in my opinion, if they're that cheap.
What game would you like to talk about next?
Or do I have? I guess we have more questions. We have more questions on AC Milan, so we'll do that one first.
The 2 games before we move on. Is Osimhen going to be over there? Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right.
No, we didn't have any questions on that. It just all seems to be AC Milan related.
Cool.
Is Osimhen going to be 100% fit though? Leao looked good first half, but tired second.
We've got time. I wouldn't. It's not a question for tonight. I don't think the Osimhen thing. We've got plenty of time to see what his fitness is going to be like. But I just wouldn't guess. Also, we get to see the team sheet for the Napoli games. Yeah.
In terms of AC Milan, Calabria stuck on Kvaratskhelia like glue again. Completely, like he would try his hardest to get stuff going, but that just seems to be the tactic that works. 2 games in a row now where he's not done anything. So Calabria, that tactic works, and I think why would they change it? In terms of everything else, obviously the red card to Anguissa, so the midfield is a little bit weaker now as well for Napoli, and without Kim, so the defense is weaker. The massive difference in quality between Kim and Juan is absolutely huge. So I think that's going to be really, really interesting moving forward as well. Honestly, I think a lot of it depends on whether Osimhen is fit or not. But that's 2 matches in a row that Milan has beaten them and Napoli have not scored a single goal, which is just so unlike them. And I think that mentally, you kind of saw the heads of the Napoli players go because there was loads of early transfers in terms of Zielinski, Kvaratskhelia, all getting early subbed.
The early transfers is the manager playing fantasy.
I said early sub.
You said early transfers the first time.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows? He might be playing the game.
Yeah. That wasn't a substitution. He's just been sold.
So I think like in terms of AC Milan, definitely they've got that momentum, but I'm definitely nervous. It's hard for me to get excited about it, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we said this before. They didn't score against Lazio. They didn't score against Inter. They didn't score against Milan. They haven't scored against Milan tonight. But a lot of the times when I've looked at the team sheets, like Osimhen's not been there. And I don't know how well they can do this whole man mark of Kvaratskhelia thing when Osimhen's on the pitch. Obviously, the danger now is going either way without their main defensive midfielder and one of the best centre-backs in the world. Is just... So you still maybe fancy Milan to go through, but maybe more goals this time. In Naples, also, I just feel like Napoli are a home team. I don't know if I'm wrong in saying that, Aaron, but I just feel like they're a proper home team, like a Liverpool. So
Yeah, that place is going to be absolutely dynamite. Like it's just going to be
yeah. So
the
I wouldn't
atmosphere is going to be insane.
obviously taking Kim out's fine, but I'm not in a rush to take the rest out. I'm not in a rush to take Kvaratskhelia out. And it's a real flip of a coin for me now between Ramos and Osimhen, not Leao. I think it's going to be one of them two because, like I say, Benfica play better away from home. In Napoli play better at home. I am leaning more towards Osimhen, but that might be a bit luxury when I may need to make a midfield transfer. May even take a -4. I don't know. I don't know what I'm feeling yet. But Brahim Diaz got player of the match. Not sure if that was deserved or not. I didn't watch the game. Napoli started the game better, and from what FPL Rossoneri had in our group chat, just panicking every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They cleared Kvaratskhelia. Yeah, Kvaratskhelia shot saved, and then Ruiz follow-up was blocked on the line within like seconds of the match starting.
Yeah, so it is one of them where it's not done and dusted yet. They started better, and it could have been a very different game. But Milan played like the away team, try to keep Napoli for 20 minutes and hit them on the counter-attack. But Benacer, obviously, were mentioned in the preview pod that he's been moved from holding midfielder to the number 10, and it came up dividends for them. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting. I think it's the most interesting second leg. This one.
Yeah, it's probably going to be. It's the one with the like obviously take the score lines out of it because then it's obvious, but it's the one where both teams are probably going to go all out for it, while I think the other ones, depending on what the next weekend's fixtures are and stuff like that, sometimes the tie just feels too far out. I mean, this is the tournament of comebacks, but
yeah,
and all of the away teams are obviously losing at this point, so they all take having to do a comeback at home. But I don't see Bayern Munich doing it. I don't see Chelsea,
I definitely
Benfica. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, Inter were the away, so I guess. Sorry, I forgot Inter were away. But
yeah.
Inter have to go to San Siro and just defend the lead, which is what they do so well.
It'd be dangerous though against just allowing Benfica to attack you. It's what's dangerous as well. If they just go and sit back against Bayern, they'll get battered. You can't. The way that they won that game is they didn't allow Bayern to attack. They played on the front. How many players
Lovely.
do you have from
I had quite a few. So my transfer, I brought in Theo Hernandez. I just couldn't go without him.
Wow.
Because I was like, I don't have any AC Milan players on my team. I can't do that.
Points did he get? 7.
Yes. Kim 3, but it keeps fluctuating between 3 and 4. Probably 3. Yeah. Di Lorenzo 2, Kvaratskhelia 3. Before we move on from this game, I wrote down some Martin Keown co-commentator quotes.
Yes, please.
Absolutely shocking co-commentating. Like, so bad. He's not watched a single Serie A game all season. And then, so, ready? The first one, refusing to say Kvaratskelia's name at all. At all. He just kept going, that Napoli winger is really, really good with the ball. Like, I don't know if anyone else is watching BT Sport, but he refused to say his name.
The V pronounced a W. It's a W. So
yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it.
It's Kvaratskhelia.
I really don't know. But apparently how you pronounce a name reflects your football knowledge. So
yes. I think at least given Kvaratskhelia, I remember when Napoli played against Ajax, the commentator, one of the two, kept on just calling him Kvaradona because they couldn't say the rest of his name. I was like,
that would be the worst bit about when
Yes.
if he did make a transfer to the Premier League, is that all these commentators just butchering his name. Like,
Yeah, quality.
So there was multiple times. So this one, that Napoli winger needs to get his shot away. The other one, they're defending that Napoli winger out of the game. Calabria is sticking to that Napoli that Napoli winger like glue. So it wasn't even an attempt to pronounce his name. It was that Napoli winger.
Oh my god.
Embarrassing. I need to count all the times that this referee has stopped this game. This is beyond pathetic. I know they're free kicks, but this is a joke. Oh dear.
Kick it off with them. How dare you blow for that free kick? There's too many of them.
And then the last one, and this just proved that he has not watched a single bit of Serie A this year. The history of AC Milan, it must really affect these players on a day-to-day basis. I think they really need to be proud of the team they play for and show it in their performances. They won the league last year. What are we talking about? I don't know.
They won the league last year, and they've got a 1-0 aggregate lead in the quarterfinals of the Champions League.
And knocked out Tottenham.
Yeah.
But somehow the shadow of Kaká and Maldini like loom over this team. Like, yeah, honestly, shocking.
Brilliant, that. Absolutely brilliant.
So that was entertaining, at least. I laughed.
Yeah.
There was other things like EAQ, like basically just saying that AC Milan aren't a good team. He almost went on a rant about Newcastle.
Did he?
He did, yes. He was on about how he called the AC Milan players amateur actors and how they weren't believable when they would fall over. And he was like, this is just part of the game now. We hate to see it. How players will fall over and just try and run the clock down. We see it a lot in the Premier League with certain teams. And then I forgot who. I think it was Ian Dark. I think that was who the actual commentator was. And he was like, yes, but thankfully, he like transitioned. He was like, thankfully, you can watch all the Premier League on Sunday with BT Sport, like kind of transitioning it across.
Or Saturday morning, 11:30. Aston Villa versus Newcastle United, where you can see lots of players rolling around.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then he brought on the Europa League. So it was just interesting because obviously, I don't know. Obviously, we both like TalkSport is what it is. But Martin Keown, a lot of the time on there, has ranted about Newcastle lately because it keeps coming up on Twitter. Yeah.
Has he? So, I don't listen. I try not to watch it. To be fair, I actually find on TalkSport he sometimes actually speaks a little bit of sense.
Key little bit.
Yeah, but they need to start getting more commentators on that actually watch the teams regularly.
But then people would stop phoning in. So if they talked sense, people wouldn't phone in.
I mean for BT Sport. Oh, for talk shite. That's
I thought you were still talking about them.
They need idiots like Gabriel Bonlaho and Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy. In my opinion, Zambo and Kim being out was huge. Mike Magnan should have. You mean poor man's Dida? Mike Magnan should have been player of the match. Had some blinding saves. Yeah, from what I heard, he should have been from again that group. Nick, this is where I have a lot of respect for.
Who did get the player of the match?
Brahim Diaz.
Oh yeah.
I can't comment too much, but at the end that group chat, man, just was with Mannion. How did you save that? Mannion, how did you do that? It's that shot.
Yeah, there was one chance where a cross, like, so basically, like, there's the players lined up and the cross was intended for this person. And as it comes here, the goalkeeper's running across to the player behind, and this player, like, outjumps everyone and heads it. And, like, Mannion, like, cuts back from running and, like, tips it over the bar. So it was, like, really, really, that was, like, one of the easier saves, but it just shows to that, like, that would have went in if it was any other keeper.
That was like watching a clean shaven, slow motion version of Rafa Benitez. Thanks for that, Aaron.
Oh, with the cups and yeah. Sign me up for the Leicester job.
I had Kim, good. Had Di Lorenzo, good. Had Kvaratskhelia, transferred out Osimhen. So yeah, not a great night to work from those boys. On to the last game. Chelsea away to Real Madrid. Business as usual. It's all it is. He knows goals before they actually go in real time. With this game, not too many surprises. I thought Chelsea put up a really good fight for 6.5 minutes, and then Real Madrid just managed the game excellently. Real Madrid didn't get out of second or third gear, really. Just so superior tactically. I know that Chelsea's team sheet looked good on paper, but to play against Real Madrid, it was a disaster. Absolute disaster. To go 1v1 essentially defensively against Vinicius, Rodrigo and Benzema with those three centre-backs. Kante, really, really good for the first half. You could see he tired out in the second. I thought Kepa generally had a good game. Maybe could have done a little bit better with the first goal, but overall, I thought like he made some really good saves. Ben Chilwell getting sent off. Thank goodness I don't have him. But
so many people were suggesting him.
Yeah, people were suggesting him. Again, that just never ever thought that Chelsea were going to keep a clean sheet in that game.
Champions on the Gaming Hub Scout suggested Ben Chilwell as well. Like,
yeah, I mean, maybe for his attacking.
Know what.
Like again,
even before that,
Wolves are in. How are they going to keep a clean sheet against like the best striker in the world, the best left winger in the world?
Before that, like it's kind of, and we didn't get to talk about it in the previews because obviously we're time restraint with Zoom. That shows how out of pocket we are. We still have to do 40-minute Zoom sessions. So
money via Patreon that we don't have.
But we didn't talk about why would Real Madrid, like Ben Chilwell's ball recovery potential wouldn't have been as high as the rest of Chelsea's back line because Real Madrid don't attack much down the right. Vinicius Jr. is their catalyst in terms of making stuff happen. Surely Reece James is, I don't even know what the differences were today. I haven't seen the points or anything. But like Reece James' ball recovery potential would have been a lot higher. I think was it Fofana who played on the right? Like,
yeah.
How did they do a ball recoveries compared to the others? Like, probably not.
He got booked within 5 minutes as well because he's obviously marking Vinicius Jr.
I mean, it's hard to recover the ball from Vinicius Jr. in the first place. Yeah, but like, Real Madrid don't attack much down the right. Well, as much down the right compared to the left.
Yeah. I thought so. Vinicius Jr. got player of the match. He got 2 assists, although like 1 real assist. I again another player I've sort of been critical of in terms of the position. David Alaba, definitely a left back. When he went to left back, he was absolutely mustard again tonight anyway. But we saw in the Champions League last season against Man City just how bad he can be. Good players. Now I don't know whether you'd class Sterling and Felix in their current form as good players or Havertz. Generally, of course, they are. But at the minute, I'm not too sure. But regardless, he was an absolute man mountain at centre-back tonight. I don't know how many ball recoveries he's got. The game's a bit funny. I remember looking at SofaScore and One Football once for Ilkay Gundogan, because I was just like, how many ball recoveries has he got? And was 16. Had a look in the game, and he'd been awarded 5. So I'm like, it will forever puzzle me on what the ball recovery constitution is for the game, and as opposed to what these sort of statistical like data websites have. But his real-time statistics for ball recoveries or tackles tonight just must be off the charts. You just every opportunity, and then he nearly got an assist at the end when he moved to left back. So it'll be really interesting to see how well he performs against Man City again, to see if he has improved as a centre back fully. But I thought tonight he was absolutely outstanding. I thought he was a shoo-in for player of the match. He was never going to get it being a centre back in a 2-0 win.
Yeah.
Is what it is. Carvajal with the world's most stupid yellow card for any owners. That's me.
So is he suspended now?
I don't think so. I'll have to double check. I hope he's bloody well not. It just costs us a point, and it was really annoying. Rudiger not starting, obviously, was said at the beginning, or not the beginning of this, like the preview pod. We don't know whether it's going to be Rudiger, Militao, or Alaba. Will Alaba go left back? Will Camavinga play at left back? We did try and tell everyone that this is a really difficult situation to work out. It's why I went Carvajal over Rudiger.
Yeah, because of the safety.
We had the conversation. Rudiger has the higher ceiling, but I said I'm going to go Carvajal because I know he's going to play. Whereas Rudiger, I'm not sure. And it worked out to be that way. An amazing block at the end, though, to stop Mason Mount, then screamed in his face. Got a lot of time for. Yeah, it was comfortable. Look at Modric, absolutely dominating that midfield at times, just so silky still. King Karim, one of the easiest goals you'll ever score. And then Marco Asensio, back in business. Another goal, really, really well taken. I think he's out of contract in the summer. And the fact that he's right wing, number 10, centre midfield, on a free contract, I'd definitely be snapping them up at Newcastle personally. 100%.
I think a majority of teams would.
Yeah, loads of teams should be looking at him. And his only real criticism is, well, he's not really broken into that Real Madrid first team. But can you blame him? Like, how is he meant to get in that midfield 3? How is he meant to get in ahead of Luka Modric? And I do think he's not as good as Valverde as a centre midfielder. Cruz, Camavinga, and Tchouaméni are obviously completely different types of players. And then it's sort of like him versus Rodrigo on the right, and they do swap a bit, but then Valverde also plays on the right quite a bit. These aren't average players that he's competing with. If he came to the Premier League as a right winger, he's going to be like, he's miles better than Antony. Miles better. Like, I'd say he's not quite, obviously, he's obviously not Salah levels, and I don't think he's quite Saka. But other than that,
I think with them type of players, it's like kind of how Casemiro's taken to the Premier League, where people were like, oh yeah, Casemiro's a good player. And then all of a sudden, like, you see how good they actually are.
Yeah.
And like Man United with Casemiro and Man United without Casemiro is a totally different team.
Yeah. It's just, he's their best player. People can be 32, 33 years old, however old he is. There's always the arguments, oh yeah, well, it's easy to win 5 Champions Leagues, by the way, with any team. Easy to win 5 Champions Leagues when you've got that midfield, but he was like a key part of that midfield.
Yeah, and like with that kind of stuff as well, it's like, well, how come Busquets, Iniesta, Xavi didn't win more? Because that was a better midfield 3.
Arguably, arguably, that's an unbelievable battle.
Yeah,
the 3 of them versus each other in their prime. So I think,
like, who would you rather have if you built a team from scratch, 4-3-3? Which midfield 3 would you rather have?
Probably Casemiro, Xavi, Iniesta.
Well, no, like you have to choose the Real Madrid.
No, Aaron, I refuse to answer the other question. I don't know. Like, I just don't know. They are 2 unbelievable midfields.
It's just such a shame when like we're talking about like the best teams that have played in the decade, and like Van Dijk is making it ahead of some of these. Like, we'll probably make it ahead of Ramos, Sergio Ramos, and stuff like that. And you're like,
Better than Ramos. Ramos is just unbelievably clutch going forward, isn't he? It's like, oh,
yeah,
lads,
but like when it comes,
listen, 2-6. There we go. 1-1. Seedorf, Perlo, Gattuso, easy. No chance. Absolutely no chance, by the way. Got beat off Jimmy Traore's Liverpool. Newcastle signed Isco. He's a free agent at 31 years of age. I don't think
isn't it the case where nobody wants Isco?
Also, he doesn't fit. We don't play with the number 10. Like we play with like they're never flat, but they rotate around where you've sort of got like Willock on the left or Joe Linton, and they'll sort of play midfields like halfway, like maybe just behind up to the opponent's box. Sean Longstaff will do box to box, and then Bruno will sort of do our box to just inside their half, and then you'll see Longstaff and Bruno swap round, not like position like left or right. Bruno will always be in the middle, but as the song suggests. But then he'll stop bombing on, and then Longstaff will sit, and then Willock can go somewhere else, and Joe Linton can drop back. Like they all do the same job. They're a bit obviously not the same quality, but they're a bit like Modric. A bit like tonight. It's midfield Modric, Valverde, Casemiro, Modric, Valverde, Cruz. They don't like.
Didn't Eddie Howe during his like break actually go to? I think he went around like Europe and watched some of the sessions.
Went Atletico Madrid was one of them. I don't know if he went to Real though, but he went to Atletico Madrid.
Crazy.
I don't know who else he went to, but he's obviously. So we don't play with an out-and-out number 10. Asensio can play in midfield. Free played there at the weekend. Granted, not as well. However, Newcastle need a right winger, and he does play right wing as well as the 10.
Would you start Asensio over Almiron?
Yeah, maybe. Just maybe.
No, I'm joking. I was hoping that's going to be like a sound bite for like delusional Newcastle fans. Like,
yeah. We've digressed. I mean, this game's done and dusted in it.
We're going to be unbearable next year.
Nah, I think we're quite reasonable.
The past few episodes, we've talked about Newcastle for like 10 minutes.
No, the last one we talked
collectively
about was 2 minutes, Aaron. And for this one, maybe. And we're relating it to Real Madrid players. And it's not like we're saying, like, oh my God, we're going to sign Benzema or Vinicius Jr. It's like, no, it's someone that's out of contract in the summer. Anyway, yes, we should be talking about Real Madrid. It's just the game's over. It wasn't that exciting. How many players did you have from the game? Who did you have from the game?
I had Vinicius and Benzema. That was it.
I had Courtois, Carvajal, transferred them both in. I got Vinicius Jr. I already had him, and Karim Benzema. So good work all round from the Real Madrid boys.
I've just had,
literally
in the space of since the AC Milan game and this one, 5 points taken off me. They've taken a ball recovery point off every single player from the Napoli and AC Milan match.
I probably lost a couple of points there.
Oh, I'm back up to 61 just in that moment of time.
I don't know how many I have. I'm going to have to disappear to check.
They've all just went up by 1 again.
Aaron, I'm going to check my score.
Who knows?
I'll be back.
The biggest downfall for me was the fact that I had to have too many transfers, and I chose not to take a hit. If I had took a hit, John Stones would have came in, which was absolutely heartbreaking. I just didn't think that Man City would keep a clean sheet at the end of the day. So with that, I'm on 61 points with Vinicius Junior's 3 points still to be added on. So 64. I feel like it's not the best, but I had so much eliminations, injuries, 2 goalkeepers playing for the same game. So I've still got Bar and obviously the 2 goalkeepers on my bench. So lots of fires to still put out, and I just didn't want to take any hits really, because I didn't. Obviously, Stones in hindsight would have made up the difference, but I just didn't see Man City keeping that clean sheet.
Yeah, bollocks, isn't
I
it?
thought Bayern would have actually turned up.
I have 64 points without Vinicius's 3, so that'll be 67.
I'm happy with that. Then if I've stuck close to you, then I'm all right. Without any Real Madrid defenders, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I think pretty much grey arrow really. Probably, I think.
I've probably got a red just with where I was.
Yeah,
because I already went from like 4,000 to 6, and that probably would have went all the way down to like 40,000 if I took a -4 with how close this game is. So
yeah. Obviously, for the next one, we'll for the next preview, we'll give a roundup of where we are ranking wise and all that sort of stuff, because the game's not going to update until after midnight, and I'm not staying
and
up
an
that.
update on the Content Creators Champions League, which we also don't know the scores for that yet.
Yes, so we'll do an update on that. I know that one of the lads in there, Vincent, captained Vinicius Jr. Tasty.
Some class players, honestly, unreal.
Oh, yeah, the people in that group are filled. Milanista got knocked out last week, and he's like 100th in the world or something.
Yeah, it's madness.
He got knocked out 150th or something. Yeah, that league's a joke.
I think we're going to have to end up opening the Europa League, you know.
I think we might, just so that me and you can play in it. So
Yeah,
I can play. Not captain in Haaland has ruined me. I might not even be in my own competition next year with that. Might have to change how many teams get relegated depending on where I finish. That's a good group. Do you have any more comments? Or is that us done?
No, that's everything.
Nice and quiet.
Down to 1 watcher, so thanks for sticking around.
Around there?
But we're going to go.
Yeah, it was the Newcastle chat, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right. To our 1 watcher, thank you so much. To everyone else watching later on, thanks so much as well. We will see you for the next preview. Follow us on Twitter, UCL Fantasy Pod, and we'll obviously just post everything up there. So catch you next time. Best of luck.